want to talk to you today about how to learn how to accept your changing body. Right? It's gonna change. There's no way about it. Right? It's not gonna go away. You're not gonna magically age in reverse. I mean, you may a little bit with some biohacking, but when I growing up, I always struggled with self-image, and I struggled with self-worth, and I struggled with identity, and I sometimes struggled with weight. I get made fun of a little bit. Not too bad, for being overweight. And, I've fluctuated, 20 pounds here and there over the years. And when I had my first son, when I was pregnant with him, and even before, I was going to the gym, but I wasn't really going consistently. Or was kind of just going through the motions. And when I got pregnant with him, I had this incredible urge to just eat and eat and eat. And I thought that I could eat whatever I wanted and not, and it wouldn't matter. And it did matter, because at the end of my pregnancy, I gained almost 80 pounds, and I have a 5'4" frame. So yeah, it was a little uncomfortable. And my child was 9 pounds. He was too big. He didn't come out, so he had to be removed. And even after I had him, I remember coming home from the hospital, and I was 218 pounds. Oh my God. I went from a size 4 to a size 12, and my legs were up together from my ankles to my woo-woo, and I just felt like I had this waddle, and I didn't feel right, and my joints ached. And so I started going, when I got cleared, I started going to see a personal trainer, and I did a lot of work. And in the first year, I lost 70 pounds, and I felt great, but in year 2, it started getting a little bit obsessive, right? I feel like I kind of lost myself a little bit, because I started counting every single calorie that went out or that went in. The walking that I did, the working out that I did, I counted almonds. I would count out 20 almonds. And I got to the point where, it was becoming really obsessive, and I was going to the gym 7 days a week, and I was going, an hour or 2 a day. I was running 10Ks, in between. And my body was great. My body was great. I still had a really negative self-image. And I look at my body now, and I am, about 25 pounds heavier than what I was when I was in my best shape. And I look at my body now, and I look back at then, and I'm like, holy shit, I look so good. I felt so, I feel like I could move, and I still had such a negative self-image. And, so it gets to the point where, as you get older too, your body changes, and it doesn't go back to how it was. I remember seeing my body when I was in my early 20s. I started seeing I have some cellulite accumulating on my legs. I wasn't doing anything differently, right? I wasn't eating any differently. I just felt like my body started to make changes. And when I when I was in my peak shape, I wasn't listening to my body's cues. I wasn't listening to the rest that I needed, and I was pushing the limits every single day. And I wound up getting a Morton's neuroma in my left foot, which is a neuroma is a non-cancerous tumor that basically wraps itself around your nerve to protect it. And it happens with athletes or people that wear ill-fitting shoes. And I did both. I wore pumps 12 hours a day, and then sneakers, deadlifting at night. And it got to me, and I had to have surgery to take it out, and they told me that I would be better in 2 weeks. And it took me 6 months. And I lost all my gains, right? But it sent me kind of spiraling, and for good reason, because what I was doing wasn't really sustainable. I was so focused on making sure I had my body right and getting my body to the most perfect, pristine condition. And, I was also focusing on finishing up grad school. And so I was working on my thesis, and I was struggling at my job, and my marriage was suffering, and I wasn't home for my child. And it got to the point where I wound up I lost everything, right? I crashed and burned, and my body hasn't been the same ever since. And I wound up having another baby, and I did the same thing, gained another 70 pounds. This one wasn't 9 pounds, it was only 6. And, I think that was because of the amount of stress that I have in my body. And stress overall is going to create the most incredible change in your body in not a good way, right? So when you're stressed and when you're chronically and perpetually stressed, you are creating and releasing the stress hormones that release cortisol into the body, which sit around your midsection. All right, so it feels like you have like an inner tube in your body. And I looked back at all the ways that I was like working on my body, and it was great, but I wasn't connected to myself. I wasn't connected to my soul, right? I was going through the motions, and I had this awful view of what I thought I needed to look like based on what I saw in the outside world. And I just couldn't understand how like all these girls could be perfect on Instagram and Facebook. And, like I struggled to eat a fucking tomato. And, here's the thing. It's like, it's all fake, right? A lot of it's photoshopped, or it's the best angles. And, nobody really looks like in real life what they look like on social media. And that's why I'm sitting here with no filter. That's why I'm sitting here the way that I am. I need to wash my hair. I'm trying to be authentic. I'm trying to just speak from my mind. And, there's really not enough of that's out there. And it creates a lot of standards and conditions, right? And it programs us to feel like we're not good enough, and that, we should work harder or try harder, or that we're precluded from having the perfect body or from having the perfect life. And everything that you see in social media and everything you see in the outside world, right? How you respond to that, how you view that is based on your internal mind, right? You can't stop aging from happening. You can't stop your body from changes, right? You can't stop the metabolic process from slowing down. Your body is going to change. Your metabolism is going to change. Your cellular structure is going to change. And it's mostly a result of what's up here in your mind, right? But it's also environmental, right? So if you're, in a city where there's a lot of pollutants, right, the body's going to struggle a little bit more, right? If you are not getting up off your couch, right, the body's going to struggle even more. So, one of the things that I had to really, really sit with was to embrace how my body changes and just accept it how it is in all of its ebbs and flows. Right, there's times where we may be a little bit heavier. There's times where we may fluctuate and our weight may be a little bit lower. Right, and one of the analogies that I like to use is that of a tree. Right, and you can pretty much use this analogy for almost anything really. But when it comes to wellness, and that is that the tree, right, when fall happens and the leaves start falling off the trees, right, we don't pump the trees full of hormones and say that you're sick or you need to get bigger, right? I mean, we may give them some miracle grow, but we honor those cycles, the seasonal cycles, right? So we know that just because the leaves are falling off the tree when it's fall, it doesn't mean that it's sick or it's wilted or that it's dying. It just means that energy is getting transferred somewhere else. It's going down deep into the roots, right? So instead of taking energy from the sun, it's now taking energy from the earth, right? And we honor those cycles, and we trust that the leaves are going to come back. And we don't trust and honor our own cycles because we've been forced into a specific way that society defines how we should operate and where we should be and what weight we should be at and what our resting heart rate should be at. Guess what? When you look at my vitals, people are like, are you okay? Right? I'm almost in hypotension. Like, my blood pressure is usually like 97/70, right? It's always like something pretty low, or 60, sorry. It's usually like 97/60. When it's really high, it's like 100 or 110 over 70, right? And that's like in a bad stress spot. And so just, statistically speaking, like I should be in the danger zone for hypertension, but I'm not. Right. The same with athletes. Their resting heart rate is going to be a lot lower than others that aren't, right? And we all are wired and we're structured differently. And what it is that it's going to be what works for you, what works for your body. And so most importantly is to stop placing yourself into the mold or into the statistic or into the range of acceptability that's been determined by society. Okay? Like, your body's going to change, and you need to be okay with that, because there's no way around it unless you try to preserve your body through Botox or through plastic surgery, and that is short term. That's not doing anything, right? We have to be okay with the journey that we're on and how our body changes and how our body reacts to life, and know that it's going to have ebbs and flows. It's going to have periods of higher energy and periods of lower energy, and that doesn't mean that we're manic or depressive. It means that we are responding to the natural flow of life and honoring our body's need to do what it needs to do, right? I'm okay with being the weight that I am now, and I feel my body starting to shed it because it no longer needs it, right? Also, I moved through a very stressful period of time, so know that my body is naturally creating inflammation to respond from the stressors of life. It's just a very natural reaction. And the more awareness that I have of that happening, the more my body starts becoming more consciously aware of the stress that it is holding on to or how it's responding to life. And so instead of focusing on what's on the scale, focus on what's up here, right? And you're going to get cellulite, your skin is going to soften, right? And there's a number of different cosmetic things you can do, but at the end of the day, it's going to be how your mindset is allowing you to shift into that higher vibration to allow that cellular regeneration and allow your body to heal properly. So I hope this resonates, and I think that's it. So thank you.